If you ask the average person off the street what the scariest animal in the forests of North America is, wolf or bear is likely the most common response. Ask a cryptozoologist, and you might hear the names Bigfoot or Dogman get thrown around. But for as dangerous as these ferocious, furry forest ferals can be, the most terrifying creatures that call these woods home might not even have hair at all. If you believe tales of the bald, bloodless beast known as the Rake. Now, if you Google the Rake, the first results that you'll find will be about something called Creepypastas. For a quick background, Creepypastas are essentially short, scary stories that are posted online and can be written by anyone. A few of these stories garner enough attention to go viral, and some of the characters that have originated from creepypastas have become horror icons in their own right, in the same vein as Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees. Well, you may have heard of some of these figures, such as Slenderman or Jeff the Killer. Another that is somewhat more obscure is the Rake. The earliest stories meaning purely fictional creepypastas, not eyewitness reports of something that could potentially be real, surfaced back in 2003. These stories describe the Rake as being completely snow white, as lank as they come, with two pitch black eyes, and not a single hair from head to toe. Stories featuring the entity followed something of a formula. The story's narrator sees the Rake haunts their dreams and drives them crazy, the narrator dies. Not exactly Shakespeare, but it gets the job done. Despite creepypastas being purely fictional accounts, there are still many reports of people seeing these creatures that I would classify as serious, and some that I even go so far as to call credible. Now, some people in the cryptid community prefer to call these creatures crawlers rather than rakes to avoid any association with creepypastas as a whole, which I do understand. There are other creatures that were dreamt up by creepypasta authors that have since been mistaken for cryptids by some, such as Slenderman and Siren Head, but those two don't have people reporting seeing them, at least not in any serious capacity. If you read these encounters, they read more along the lines of a Bigfoot or Dogman sighting than a made-up story. And yes, I know that some skeptics watching cracked up at me saying this. Well, I can't say that I know what people are seeing. I do know that they're seeing something. There is some video and photographic evidence of these creatures out there. I wouldn't say any of it is too conclusive, but these pieces of evidence do suggest that there is some truth to these stories. The idea of extremely pale, subterranean humanoids isn't exclusive to the fictional stories of the Rake or to their potentially real counterparts. The Descent was released in theaters in 2005. The first edition of The Hobbit was published in 1937, and before being revised, depicted Gollum as a pale cave dweller of an unspecified size. Howard Philip Lovecraft's The Beast in the Cave was written in 1905, although not published until 1918, and H.G. Wells's The Time Machine, featuring the Snow White Morlocks, was published in 1895, just to give a few examples. Now, humans have known for a long time that time spent in the sun will result in a tan, and time spent out of the sun will result in a paler complexion, but the idea of a whole colony of subterranean humans, or even a separate species of humanoids, living underground seems to be strangely recurrent in the minds of writers. Now, I'm not married to this following theory, but I feel I should mention it. There's a concept in genetics called innate fear or ancestral fear. Innate fear is essentially fear that we inherited from our ancestors that is literally encoded into our DNA. In fact, there's something called the hawk-goose effect, where if young chickens see a shadow resembling a hawk flying overhead, they'll instinctively show fearful reactions, even if they themselves have no familiarity with hawks. If they see a shadow that resembles a bird they aren't the prey of, a goose in this case, the chickens won't react at all. This suggests that animals, ourselves included, are already afraid of certain things that we have no experience with as soon as we're born. The reason I've brought this up is because it is possible, if not overwhelmingly likely, that our species have an innate fear of these creatures hidden deep within our subconscious, and that fear is manifested in our writings. So, what do you think? Do you believe the Rake is really out there? or is it just the product of some overactive imaginations? Let me know in the comments section below.